I would have to clarify that there is no right or wrong answer for the thing that we are going to talk about. What is more important is that we would like to hear about your personal experiences and your personal opinion about English varieties. Okay, first of all, can you introduce yourself?
ไม่ต้องบอกชื่อใช่ไหม
ชื่อค่ะ
ชื่อด้วยเหรอคะ My name is พลอยพิมลลิ่มเจริญ
And how long have you been teaching English?
Around 2 years.
My name is Virachai Thana Maimat. I've been teaching English for 15 years.
My name is Nadudon. I've been teaching English for a year and a half.
And I'm Jiratita. I have been teaching English for nearly 14 years.
I'm Zira Garn. I've been teaching English for approximately 6 months.
Okay, first question is, which variety or varieties of English did you learn?
I learned when I was young. I used British English. The materials and the curriculum follows British curriculum. But when I grow up, like from high school, I use American English.
Do you know why it was like that?
I think it's the teachers, the school follows the materials that they select. If it is British, they use British because the materials comes with the tapes and those materials in that the country designed for the students.
And when you were using the materials, did you realize that it was British English when you were
By that time? No. I kind of realized that in my teenage years that there are two main varieties, English and British and American English.
What about you? Which variety did you learn?
During my childhood, I studied at Don Bosco School, and they use, I think it's British. And, stayed there like Oxford University Press in front of the books. And afterwards, during the secondary school, it's American. I think it's American.
I think it's similar for me. I think I learned British English, and then there is a mix between British and American English, and I can tell from like example that the teachers gave me, which refer back to like things or cultures referring back to British or American.
For myself, it's quite similar to others that when I was younger, I studied British English. And when I studied in university, they both mixed with British and American. But the textbook, I think that based on British English.
As for me, I think it's pretty much the same for all of us, right? Back when I was young, it was almost all of it is in British English. And my first foreign teacher was also from England, so he's a genuine British English speaker. But when I hit the secondary school, I went to my first American teacher, and then I suppose my English is kind of a mixture between British and American English by now, because I ran into both of them when I hit the university level.
So all of you have the same experience by studying with British English and then American English. But as a teacher, which variety are you teaching at the moment?
I use American English because I'm familiar with that more than that. I'm not saying that I'm keen in that, but I'm more familiar than British
Why are
English.
you more familiar with American?
I taught myself. I grew up with American English. I watch like films. I listen to them, songs. Those are from America. So
you chose the variety based on your familiarity, and there are no other factors that kind of make you shows that variety? For example, the department's guidelines or curriculum.
I have full authority to choose what I'm going to teach.
What about you?
To me, it's the department guideline. We are asked to teach this book, which is named New Interchange, which is American. So I think as far as I teach, like in Kasetsat University for 10 years, it's American, all American.
And who shows that?
It's the head of the department.
In my case, it's more specific as I teach English to a single profession, which is flight attendants. Though mainly we refer back to American and British English, but we also add up a lot of vocabulary and pronunciation of other varieties, depending on the destination that the airline flies to. This includes Australian, some New Zealand, as well as Indian and South African.
I currently teach, like for myself, it's British English, but I also explain to my students the differences amongst the varieties of English as well, because what I teach is kind of a specific field about the aviation, quite similar to what he said. So I would like my students to be aware of other variety of English.
But may I know what the rationale behind your
because my
decision to choose British
because my
English?
personal experience that I've been studying with British English, and I'm quite familiar with this more than American.
So for my case, I have to confess that it has to be driven by my students' material, which is given from school, so it tends to be more on the British English side. But I end up having to teach them both American and British English because the two major mainstream English variety is in the world, and it is pretty much important for them to know the differences between these two.
Okay, and for the future, do you think that you would carry on teaching the same variety of English, or do you think that you would like to change?
I will keep what I'm having. It's hard to change varieties. I don't think I am capable of doing that. And I consider what I'm having is standard already, so there is no problem to carry on.
Standard, huh? Standard.
What about you?
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure really. Which is like new interchange. Is it appropriate for the student, especially back in the northeastern part of Thailand? I think like we should. The teachers in my department just like gathers, and we need to write up something more easy and practical English. It's not, I don't think that like okay, American is standard and British is standard, but we just come up with something like okay, easy for the student to use.
Yeah, it's understandable because it's not entirely up to you, right? Because your decision to choose American variety is based on the department head's book selection. So what about you?
In my case, we have just developed a new course as a part of the training of the English program, and this session is called More Englishes, where we teach more of the varieties of English. Some the English of the countries that are less familiar to, like Chinese, Japanese, and Korean English, so that flight attendants will have more pragmatic competence to understand when those customers speak English in their own accent.
And I still prefer teaching British English because I think that for consistency, I wanted to switch to American English and then British English.
In my case, I suppose I'm going to stick with my to major varieties, but personally, I think it is important to be able to understand whatever they say and do. So perhaps in the future, only these two may not be suffice in this case. But personally, I'm going to stick to these two because there has always been in the mainstream.
Okay, next I'm going to ask you to describe the following terms: English as an international language and English as a lingua franca. What do they mean to you?
English is an international language. Is the language of English used in international countries? But if it's English as a lingua franca, is an English used as a medium of communication? Any nations would be applicable.
I have one more word for you to define: American English. What does it mean to you?
Is it English language that used by American people? So it has varieties because America is full of immigrants. That
English as a lingua franca and English as an international language. What do they mean to you?
First, I will talk about English as international language. From the start, I think if you want to use English as an international language, you need to have your own standard. Like, okay, Beyond might have like American. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right. So is that the standard? So it means that you use this standard to communicate with people. Okay. It's okay. You use so it's American English is the language that you use to communicate with people. But English as lingua franca is the English that non-native English speakers use to communicate to each other. Okay, so that's the point.
Frankly, I don't quite see the difference between the two terms, English as international language and English as a lingua franca. But to my understanding, English as a lingua franca is when at least two persons whose mother tongue are not English, but they communicate using English as a medium. That's to my understanding. While English as international language would mean like a medium that we interact with any person from around the world using the English language, regardless of mother tongue.
For me, I think English as a lingua franca is neither the English language that to different nationalities, which is they have like different first native languages, and they use English to communicate among each other, and also for English as an international language. I think it's a spoken and written English language that people around the world that they use it to communicate to each other.
Personally, I think that the main difference between the two terms is at the status of English in each one. English as an international language states the international status of English. It means that it is a medium of communication which is widely used all over the world. Well, it is true because it's the most widespread language in the world at the moment. While English as a lingua franca, you look at the English as the medium of communication alone, because itself is the language that you're using for communication. It's not, personally, I think it's not necessary that it has to be between two non-native speakers, because it's, after all, it's a lingua franca, it's a medium of communication.
Okay, next question. Which variety or varieties of English do you expect to teach in your local context in the future?
Me? American English, of course. The same reasons that I give to myself. I'm familiar with that. And it's
Do you think that there will be any factor in the future that would make you adapt or change in terms of the variety that you would like to teach?
no, because I teach English language and it comes in the package. Like you need to teach the pronunciation and the style of writing. I can't change.
So you think that the current trend would like carry on and there won't be any other factors that would make a change?
If the university like impose the policy for us to teach British English, that's my career problem because I can't. But thank goodness.
What about Thai English?
Thai English? I don't recommend. It's hard to understand.
Okay, what about you? Do you think there will be any change in the future in Thailand in terms of the variety of English that you would be expected to teach?
I think in Thailand, I'm not so sure, but for myself, I think I will try to introduce some new varieties, like those ASEAN new varieties to my students. Even though, of course, we need to stick with British or American, but yeah, I try to introduce them to like Philippines, Singapore, and those Malaysian varieties.
As for me, I think as the core of it, we need to go side by side, British and American. But then the students at my company, we also need to carry on learning some of the differences of, especially in terms of pronunciation for like job-related vocabulary, so that they have the understanding of other varieties as well.
For me, I think I'll stick with their standard variety, British English. But I also think that, like, for example, Thai English is also important to let our students know, because I think that if you think about the linguistic perspective, I would stick with the standard varieties, but also like Thai English or Chinese English, something like that, is also very people in their countries they can use to communicate. I think that we should be aware of that too.
Personally, I think I would want to stick with the two mainstream ones, but it's not that the minor varieties are that important. Sometimes you might need them because, after all, it's the medium of communication, and you cannot avoid them if you end up going to, well, be in that environment.
Okay, next question. How important to you as a teacher is the idea of a standard variety of English? Do you think it's important that we teach the standard version of English?
Yeah, choose one standard and hold on to it so you can differentiate other varieties. So I don't recommend Thai because there is no standard in Thai English.
So for you, the target variety for Thai learners should be a standard one, no matter what that standard is.
Yeah, choose one.
What about you? How important to you as a teacher, the standard variety of English?
Actually, to have a standard in my mind, in the student mind, is important. But if you stick to the standard too much, it's just avoid you to use English, to use the language effectively. To me, the most important thing that I concern is the intelligibility. So just omit the S. It go, okay, understand, okay. So it goes, and you start picking your friends. Okay, so standard is good, but
as a teacher, I think it's important that we have a standard or two to refer to, because you cannot teach all the varieties there are in this world. But that's as a teacher. But as a student, it really is depending on your need. If you are someone who will spend the rest of your life or most of your time in Malaysia or Singapore, then standard English may not be your priority.
I definitely agree with him when he said that their standard variety is very important, but also the intelligibility is also important. So I think that in Thailand we should teach them their standard and also the other varieties as well.
Well, having a standard one is already a good idea because you need a firm standing point in order to understand the basics first, and then you may shift to any other varieties as you wish. But, well, as I already stated, it depends on what standard that you choose. So make sure you choose well.
Thank you very much. I think that's all for today.
Thank you.